wet, and we're going to make another square.
So she doesn't finish that one. She starts a new one on the other side.
I tend to move the opposite direction on the paper, so feel free if you want to start on the left and move across to the right. That's totally fine. I, for some reason, just decided to start off the right side of my paper. Again, probably because I'm left-handed. So again, we're going to make our square really wet. And this time I'm going to go to the pink paint that I'm using and do the same thing across with the blue.
Okay, we'll pause it there. So we have a sec to catch up. So go ahead and get your clear, just water square painted on the left side, right next to the one we just did. Okay, and then if you want that magenta color, you can mix it in your lid. So if you just grab red, I'm gonna try to mix that color just so I'm like, you know, getting close to what she's doing. And then kind of rinse your brush off and grab a little bit of the purple. Voila, you have magenta. Very easy, right? So tiny red, tiny bit of purple, and you will have that pink color, which we call magenta. Okay. So if you want to mix that, you know, so we're more like what she's doing, I would say go ahead. If you have some sets that if you bought your own set, you may already have a magenta. And if it gets too purpley, then you just add more red to get the pink color back. If you mix like too much purple in it, but that's what it should look like. So it's more red, less purple. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and unpause. You just kind of want to watch a little bit and then see where she's going with it. And then we'll rewind it. Okay, so she's going to go back to that other one. So we'll pause it here and just take it back a little bit so we can watch her paint the pink one while we do it.
Your square really wet. And this time I'm going to go to the pink paint that I'm using and do the same thing across with the blue.
So this is what I'm doing, so you can see. Just notice she doesn't paint the whole square. She's just laying a little bit of color on there. And if you get too much water, you can blot on a paper towel, get some of that water off.
Come back over to my blue square now that some of that paint is moving around a little bit. And I'm just going to see what happens if I layer some paint down at the bottom. This section is now not active.
Make sure you guys rinse out your brush thoroughly between colors or you will get the other color in there.
As wet because it's having more time to dry out. Adding a little bit more water. Again, this is sort of just to test out how your paint moves with the water. Different paint is going to do different things. The Kuretake brand tends to be pretty nice with a smooth, even gradient. You'll get some paint brands that will granulate as they dry. You'll get some that create these starburst effects as they dry, especially in the wet on wet technique. So this is one where you definitely want to kind of play around and explore and see what your particular paint does if you're not using, especially if you're not using the same brand that I am.
Which we're not, because hers are really expensive.
So now as those dry, we're going to start another square underneath. And this is where we're going to test how these two colors interact together.
Okay, so what she's trying to do is just show you that at the beginning, when we put the color down, the paper was super wet. And it just kind of like should have bled out a little bit. So that's one technique, wet on wet. And then we're still doing wet on wet for the bottom, but she's just showing you that it's a little bit more controlled. If you let it dry just a tiny bit, it doesn't kind of like drop in there and bleed out as fast. Okay. So you just see the difference between, it's just kind of what you prefer. And then as I add more paint to this, you can see how much darker I can make it. So if I wanted this to be darker, I would just add, you know, more paint. And then if I want it to like blend out more, I just add water to it. And then I can kind of just drag it around and you can see how it can move across the paper. So it's just kind of like basically like preference. And if you want it to fade out, you really don't really want lines in watercolor. So if you want it to fade out, instead of using like a white color pencil to blend out like we do with pencil and stuff, you use water and you just kind of fade it out that way and make the line more and more subtle. So I don't want any color up here really, so I'm just gonna kind of fade that out with water. Okay, so that's the difference between. Yeah, this paper is a little cheaper than the final copy one I gave you, so it's not as good. So it will start to warp just a little because the water's coming on it. Okay, everybody with me? All right, I still have to do my pink square. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go ahead and do my pink square and then we'll let the video go a little bit more. If you already did your pink square, that's great. I just didn't get a chance to yet. And I didn't want to go too fast because I know you guys are on a Zoom. It's a little bit harder to, do than when you're in person. So I'm just kind of trying to take it a little bit slow. And you guys let me know if you're really behind or something and I'm going too fast, okay? So there's that. And then if you wanted to let it fade out, you can like add a little bit more water. And if you get like something like that where there's like a little puddle, if you don't want that puddle there, you can always blot it up a little bit. Just know that when you grab it with the paper towel or Kleenex to kind of blot it up, it may spread a little. So just be careful of that. Okay. So you should have those two squares done.
Now, when I planned out this piece, I already decided that I wanted to use blue and pink, and this is a color combination that I really enjoy using. So I'm familiar with how these colors will react together.
She does use it a lot.
If you're choosing colors that aren't the same ones that I'm doing these test squares before you paint your final piece to make sure you like how the colors blend together. And so in this step, we're going to start the same way as we did with the boxes above. We're going to fill the top section with our blue.
Okay, so we're gonna get our same color that we used on the last one. My square is already wet and I'm gonna start to add a little bit of blue to the top. And remember, this is, practice just to get a feel for the watercolors and the techniques, but I will have you actually turn this in for credit, okay? So make sure everybody's participating and doing this because you will be turning it in. More so for like.
Are we turning it in today?
If we finish, I think we're gonna need tomorrow to do the whole thing, but we'll see how far we get. You're my first group with this, so I don't know how long it takes. I'm guessing tomorrow would be when you would turn it in, but we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Add a little bit more water to kind of let that move around. But then this time we're going to add pink to the bottom half, and we're going to build them together in sort of a patchy, kind of Northern Lights-esque style. And you'll see, I'll do one more example after this one that's more of that blended ombre effect. So you will be able to see the difference between this style and the next one. So now we're kind of bringing the colors together
bringing those
in
colors
a more
together.
haphazard way, kind of letting some of the pinks go up higher, bringing the blues down, letting them sort of blend together in not really a forced way, just kind of letting them touch and merge with the wet of the paper. You'll also see that they'll start to create a little bit of purple tones in the middle as they mix too.
She's just adding like a little bit more of each color and then kind of like getting them eventually to touch each other so that they blend into a third color.
So now we'll go ahead and do our fourth square.
I'll pause that for just a second in case you're not caught up. How we doing, guys? Is the pacing okay?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm still working on the pink part, but I'm almost done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm blending mine right now. I'll put put it on mine. So I'm getting these two blended with the pink. And then if you want it, again, if you want it a little darker, like say you want the bottom to be a little darker, you can just add more paint to it. But right now we're not creating anything beautiful, right? We're just learning how to get these colors to kind of float around on the paper and get them to blend. So that's all we're really focused on right now. And then you will have a chance to practice the colors that you might want to do for your final after we're done with these.
Wow, mine looks very deep. And this is going to be a test of the ombre effect between the two colors. Again, starting with a wash of water so that we've got our wet base to work on. And then we're going to do a very similar technique to what we did in the previous square mixing the blues and the pinks. Only we're going to be a lot more gentle as we blend them together so that we get this really soft ombre gradient effect.
Okay, so gradient means like, you know, light to dark or from one color to another, seamlessly blending, not have like a big line between them. So if you look at mine and hers, of course, you can see that it just kind of like is like almost like bleeding together, and it doesn't look like forced. There's no big line where there's like two different colors, right? It just kind of fades. So that's what you're trying to achieve. Also, we have a double-sided brush tub here where we have clean and dirty water. So you guys probably have 1 cup. So just make sure if your water starts to get kind of mucky, like it looks like really dark, you'll want to change that and get some clean water. Because with watercolor, if you use dirty water to put down your washes, it's going to change your colors of your paints. Okay, so just make sure you have clean water. It shouldn't be really too dirty.
Can I go get some new water then?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done that much yet, but yeah. Just keep an eye on that.
We're going to add our blue in. This is going to kind of pretty much fill the top half of the square. You want to make your blue a little bit darker at the top. And you'll see it gets lighter as it goes down towards the white area. Then we'll fill the bottom that was currently white with our pink. Drag it up so that it comes and touches the blue. Adding a little bit more water if you need to. And then we're just going to slowly blend the colors together. Broad strokes across it. Because in this one we don't want the streaky effect that we have in the previous version. We want these to be kind of like a seamless blend between the colors. And if you've ever watched any of my Instagram videos before, you've probably seen me do this technique a bunch of times before. It's one of my favorites for creating skies because I think it just gives that like really nice hazy.
So the only difference between the one we just did and this one is she was kind of just like painting like kind of almost in circular, kind of just like blending them out. In this one, she's actually going across horizontally, and you can see a little bit of a difference in the look.
Sunset look to it. So using the water and just lightly blending up and down our square until we've created that seamless connection between the two colors. So now we're going to do one last color test activity before we move on to painting our final piece. And in this one,
so the main difference is that this one, the colors aren't exactly even, to where it's just kind of like, you can see I have my blue kind of coming down this way a little longer. This one, it's more like even. So you don't want a line, but what she is saying